Dr. Witteles, there were two New England Journal articles in 2018 heralding the success of TTR gene silencers, inotersen and patisiran, both of which effectively stop the generation of TTR mRNA by targeting a sequence in the 3' untranslated region, which results in reductions in TTR, regardless of whether it's the variant or wild type. So the cardiac findings in these trials are quite limited, but is there something we can glean from the inotersen experience or the patisiran that might suggest that these TTR gene silencers are perhaps even or have potential for promise of better therapeutic outcomes in cardiomyopathy than the TTR tetramer stabilizers?
Yes, thanks. I would say there's tremendous excitement about the silencers for TTR cardiomyopathy. They are, of course, not approved for that indication yet, because both of the trials you're referring to, of course, were specifically for the hereditary or variant TTR polyneuropathy indication. Now, as everybody on this panel knows very well, the idea that there is a clear distinction between variant TTR patients, between those with polyneuropathy and cardiomyopathy, is not true. It's a spectrum, and particularly when you get into a lot of the mutations that lead to a predominantly polyneuropathy phenotype, many, if not most, will have some degree of overt cardiac involvement as assessed by imaging and or biomarkers. So specifically for patisiran, there was a follow-up study where there was good data that was released from a cardiac subgroup that had been predefined from that trial, from the Apollo trial, which pretty clearly showed a benefit in terms of from echocardiographic parameters as well as from NT-proBNP for the group who was on patisiran versus placebo. Now, it's worth saying that the results of these studies, even more so with patisiran, but to a real extent with both of them, were absolutely unbelievably good results from a polyneuropathy standpoint. I mean, a p-value in one of the trials, I believe in the 10 to minus 23rd, 10 to minus 23 level with a couple of hundred patients enrolled. I mean, that's how big the treatment difference was and how consistent the difference was. So it would be utterly shocking, knowing what the pathophysiology of the disease is, if you could see that sort of result with in neuropathy and not end up seeing that sort of result in cardiomyopathy. There were some safety concerns, more so than inotersen. There was a little bit with patisiran that was brought up because there seemed to be more cardiovascular deaths potentially in the patisiran arm, but overall there was actually fewer deaths in the patisiran arm. So, and we're talking about small numbers, so it probably wasn't real. With inotersen, there was a trend towards a little more deaths in the inotersen arm, and there were issues with renal dysfunction and thrombocytopenia that give people some pause with it that hopefully will be different with next generation forms. But big picture, tremendous excitement for the silencers, and both companies have agents that are now either starting or about to start clinical trials for cardiomyopathy.